citizens in the Southern California town of Venice are outraged following a police raid on a raw food store.
Police officers are going into this grocery store, guns drawn.
Seeing the police here with their guns raised like they're about to, raid some sort of drug house or something like that. What the heck is going on over there? Do police have nothing better to do in LA than raid organic food stores?
We heard a banging on the back door. One of my workers, helpers, he went out there and said, "Hey, there's a cops out here."
The police presented a warrant, so Jarrell let them in.
They made me get out of the kitchen, and I had to go sit over there on a chair, and they searched me.
They started walking around. They drew their guns, and I'm like, why are you drawing guns?
I didn't know what was going on. I mean, it seemed like they thought we had cocaine in the papayas or something.
What happens if a worker there came out with one of their laser temperature guns when that police officer had his gun drawn like that? What's happening in this country is big agricultural business, large corporations, they control a majority of the food that's produced in America, and they've hijacked the FDA and government regulatory agencies.
The raid on Rossum involved no less than 5 government agencies: the FDA, the Los Angeles Health Department, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, and the California Department of Food and Agriculture. All 5 of these agencies declined interviews for this story, saying the investigation was ongoing.
There seems to be a lot of revolving doors.
The big corporations have control of the regulatory agencies, and they want people to fit in this corporate model where they can be regulated and controlled and taxed.
On October 8, 2009, Atrium notified me that the FDA had stopped the import of my NatCell products. I had to destroy the URL hepatitisc3.com if I wanted to import anything into this country. And they wouldn't talk to me or my attorneys until it was. They said they never want to see that website again. If they didn't like something, tell me. Give me a period of time to fix it. Don't destroy everything that I spent 10 years working on. I can't use the word hepatitis. So I'm supposed to be able to say the word liver support, but I can't use the word liver disease. To this day, I'm not completely sure what I can say. For all this 10 years, we've used a website titled Beat Hepatitis C Naturally. That was as vague as we could get, and now I can't even say that. I find it repressive, and that's being polite about it. They don't want somebody like me over here getting great reports using food supplements. I think everybody that works for me is in shock. I am, and I'm living on borrowed money. I mean, it's not every day that you have 15 years of your work destroyed by your government.
They don't fit into the corporate model, therefore they must be destroyed.
I survived an FDA raid on September 17, 2003. After the FDA came in with guns drawn, came in and took all of our inventory and destroyed it, arrested my husband, we received just hundreds of phone calls, people crying hysterically, "What are we going to do? Your products were curing our cancer. What are we going to do?" And all we could do is just cry with them because we were helpless at that time.
Recently, a gentleman named Greg Caton, who's an herbalist and an herbal product formulator, he's been selling highly effective anti-cancer remedies for many years, and he's been pursued by the authorities in the United States, especially the FDA and the FDA's Office of Criminal Investigation, that's the OCI. He's been pursued by those folks for many years. He was convicted at one point of selling unapproved drugs, which of course were just herbs. And he at one point fled to Ecuador for his own safety. He's been living in Ecuador, selling herbs out of Ecuador for quite some time and helping many people around the world with his products. Well, recently, just in the last few days, in fact, he was kidnapped from Ecuador by law enforcement authorities. He was put on a plane, an American Airlines plane, flown back to Miami, and we believe this was done by the FDA.
My husband had 2 hearings in March and 1 in May in Lafayette, Louisiana for violating his supervised release. My former bookkeeper embezzled over $20,000 from my company while Greg was in prison. To cover up her crime, she conspired with John Armand, the FDA criminal investigator, and the federal prosecutor, Richard Willis. Each of them lied to the court, saying that Greg was making the unapproved FDA products. The judge believed all of their lies and sentenced Greg to the 2-year maximum. I have filed complaints with the FBI, the Office of Professional Responsibility, and the Inspector General to have these criminals investigated and prosecuted. No agency has done anything to date. I'm asking for help to get this case investigated and the criminals prosecuted.
This battle over organic foods that's brewing. I mean, why are people getting so fired up about this?
If people don't believe that there is suppression, no oppression when it comes to cancer cures or any kind of cures, then think again.
I have been censored. I live in a government that is repressive and exercises censorship on the freedom of speech and on the written word.
We even had a phone call from a woman. She had cured herself of cancer with our herbal formulas of breast cancer, and she tried to get her story on the Oprah Winfrey Show. And the Oprah Winfrey Show told her, we cannot air your story because we are supported by the pharmaceutical companies.
In the past 3 years, there have been at least 8 government raids across the U.S. involving raw dairy.
They took me down to the county jail, booked me, photographed me like a criminal.
Palmer spent the night in the Ventura County Jail and was never charged. That happened in 2008. She was raided again in 2009 and again in 2010.
Ripped my house apart, all of our records, volunteers on the farm, neighbors picking tomatoes, chased off. You had over 50 state and county employees raiding this farm and Rossum at the same time.
The offense? Improperly labeling her cheese products.
Seems here that, the police are using a little bit of excessive force.
I've discovered there are countries I can't ship anything to, like Mexico and Brazil are two that stand out. You can't ship a bottle of supplements to Mexico or to Brazil. I mean, I suppose you could smuggle it, but customs would bust you.
Well, nobody wants to get busted for having a bottle of vitamin C at the border.
Well, it's being dubbed Farmageddon, something that the Senate did pass today. It calls it a sweeping overhaul of the nation's food safety system. It basically allows the government to really crack down on tainted food and could, of course, give the FDA much more power.
A removal of the right to clean and store seeds? Isn't that what every parent loves to do with their kid is, grow vegetables in the garden?
It's just getting utterly ridiculous when you can't even grow your own food.
U.S. food and U.S. farms being put under the control of the Departments of Homeland Security and Defense.
The USDA did the same thing in the meat industry. They were overwhelmed with paperwork requirements, fines, this bureaucratic burden that put most of them out of business. So if you look at the meat processing industry, you now have everything concentrated with a few huge industrial complexes, and that's kind of what's going to happen here.
This is a bill designed for the corporate government monopoly.
There is some connection there between the policies that we're seeing the FDA implement and what's in the best interest of some of these monolithic, huge agribusiness corporations.
We see people in the FDA who used to work for Monsanto.
This is fascism. This is corporatism.
It's really just kind of theater to get the American people to support granting massive amounts of power to these organizations.
This is just one in many steps our government has taken to partner with the big, large corporations to monopolize the distribution of food and to control it because they want more profit. They want to make more money.
The last thing we need is to be giving the FDA increased powers.
We should have diversification of the food supply, not centralization of it.
And it's not just doing it to me or my company. They're doing it to you. They're doing it to everybody.
All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
The people are going to have to rise up and physically take these people out of office.
To look at the money that these taxpayers are paying.
We don't want the federal government telling us what we can put in our bodies.
Stand up and stop the suppression now.